and its name. WTOC-AM, W224DI, W236CR, Indianapolis, an Urban One station, covering even more inspiration and praise on AM 1310, 92.7, and the all-new 95.1 FM, The Light. The following is a paid program. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views.
Hey, text AM to
WTOC AM 1310, 92.7 FM, 95.1 FM, The Light, and its man. Now, to address the legal concerns of our community, AM 1310, The Light presents Legally Speaking. Here is today's.
good morning. Good morning, our listeners in Indianapolis and all over the country, our internet listeners, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Thank you for joining us today. We're happy to tell you that we're broadcasting from the #1 church in America, Olivet Missionary Baptist Church. If you don't have a church home, this is the place to be. But we have a special day today. By my honorable pastor, Pastor Moore, allowed us to broadcast from his studio, which is just outstanding. And what we're doing today is that we're doing our 35th Adopt a Family program, our 35th. And historically speaking, because of COVID, we've altered our approach this year. Our committee met numerous times in order to determine what would be the best way of continuation of the program without anyone getting sick. In prior years, our big giveaway, we used to buy bicycles or coats, dresses. We had a hookup to get designer clothing from a lot of the fancy stores. It was just incredible. We were able to get $100,000 worth of goods for about $10,000 last year. It was just an incredible purchase. But this year, we couldn't do that. This year, we've changed our approach slightly, and we're only going to be able to give away food. And we set up a process where our recipients would be driving by and we would just put the food in the trunk of their car. So we do not have interaction between any person. This COVID-19 is real. Over 3,000 folks have been dying each day. We're up over 315,000 deaths in America, and it's rapidly growing. And this week marked a milestone. This week, the Pfizer vaccine did come out. And after the person get their second dose, then it should provide a certain amount of protection. And this week, we have the Moderna vaccine will come out. There's been some miscommunication between the White House staff and the shipping lanes. And so all of the recipients have not received their doses. And so these were primarily to healthcare workers. And so we covered this extensively on our show. We had one of the top experts in the country, Dr. Jude Mamadou, a decorated military officer, a combat veterans in the military, and he had several tours of duty. And but he's internal medicine board certified and had a PhD in public health. And Dr. Mamadou educated us and enlightened us on the process. He enlightened us on the vaccination process and the disease process. And we learned a lot. But moving forward, this pandemic is real. It's not going away anytime soon. So even with vaccines, we still have a long way to go. This is a very dark and dreary winter. And I urge each and every one of you, make sure that you do the right thing, wear your mask, keep your social distance, wash your hands, and hopefully we get, I'll see you on the other side, and hopefully by August, September, we have new leadership in the White House. The 45th president will be gone. And after that, maybe we'll get some leadership. Now, this week, a couple of things we need to report. We learned that we've been attacked again by the Russians. Not a surprise. And in response, the 45th president, what did he do? He went out and played golf. No retaliatory statement towards the Russian for attacking the country with cyber. It broke out cyber security. And so it's a sad state. Meanwhile, We see in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, Republican leader in the Senate, has blocked legislation. I know so many of you are suffering. It's terrible. I understand that $1,200 mean a whole lot to a lot of folks. The unemployment benefits of the 600 extra dollars a week. I know how important that is for so many families. Uh, I understand why this is significant. We see a greater disparity between the haves and have-not in this country. The one thing that the Trump administration has done, they made rich people a lot richer and poor folks a lot poorer. And so we see that when we see that the billionaires have got richer and richer. And everywhere I go, I've been traveling lately, and the sad thing that I've noticed in all my travel, everywhere I go, there's so many homeless people. People have their life worth on grocery carts. They're begging for money because they've been evicted from their houses, their apartments. And so, because what has happened is that each week we've had between 700 to 900,000 folks applying for unemployment still. We've never had that in the history of this country. This is worse than as bad as what we had back in the Great Depression. The only difference is the stock market has been doing great, but middle America and lower America is doing terrible. So with that background, we thought it was necessary and yet mandatory for us to continue our tradition of providing food to needy persons and families. With the help of our church, we are blessed to be able to use their outstanding facility. We have a number of volunteers, so many to name, but special thanks to Brother Brooks, who's always been there for us. He's on our trustee board here as a church, and he makes sure that we can unload. It's a lot of physical work. I took some pictures last night. I was assisted by Dr. Smith. We went and loaded about 1,000 pounds or 2,000 or 1,500 pounds of hams into the back of my SUV. And she apparently been lifting weights because she did a much better job than me. And so then we had to come to the church and drop them off in the refrigerated unit for today. Well, that was just the beginning of our journey. Later, this morning, the way the process, we go to the store to pick up the food. We had to have four SUVs fully loaded, and we had to make 1.5 trip in order to get all the food to the church. Then we have a cadre of people that are putting it in bags. We have about 20 volunteers. We'll put it all in bags. And we have Brother Brooks and the state police going to help us to organize a line of traffic. And we would have people open the trunk of their cars, and as they drive by with their number, they will get their food. And so we're just happy to do this. And we think that it's something that's necessary. Now, the other aspect is that equal important is that we're deeply concerned about safety and safety of each of our participants that come through the line and our volunteers. But I've been blessed because Pastor Moore, he's become somewhat of an expert in doing this. They had our Thanksgiving event, and they gave me a quick lesson as to how they did it safely. It was really interesting. They routed the traffic a certain way, come in and out the same way. And I said, okay, this is perfect. I mean, they thought this through and they had a good game plan. So I was very happy that since the church was already doing this, all we had to do was repeat that. And I'm happy to report no infection from the process before, and hopefully today we can report back on January 9th when we come back on the show again with the same success ratio. Meanwhile, what we're trying to do, we're trying to attack two things. One is that we're trying to make sure that everybody remains safe. But two, we want to make sure that we help people that are in severe need. Now, how do we go about doing this? Historically, we rely on a bunch of churches who nominate needy families, and they send a list to us, and we then notify each family and then they get their email, they can follow up, and they get a number, and then they show up the day between 1 and 3. And that's essentially how the process works. Now, but I gotta ask the pastor. There's a couple of things that I forgot to cover. Um, One of my concerns has been that this year, since the COVID, what has occurred is that we have not been able to have in-person church services. I wonder when we'll be able to start that again. And because I was concerned about that, I was thinking that I noticed that the virus really went out of control the last couple of weeks. But I was hoping that probably by March of next year, that with the vaccine and the new administration, what will become mandatory also come January the 20th, the President-elect Biden is asking every American to do one simple thing for 100 days. 100 days. So from January 20th up until past tax day, everybody, when you're out of your house, wear a mask. If everybody in America, every person, everybody wear a mask, we would probably knock out 90%, 90% of the people that are being infected by doing that one simple thing. Keep your mask, social distance, and wash your hands. So, although the current administration has checked out on this issue, every week, there's somebody I know that has been sickened or died. There are so many heroes who's fighting the good fight and they're not making it through. Parents, children, teenagers, young adults, older adults, all type of professional folks, and it just becoming nerve-wracking. And I know that many of you at this moment in time have become fatigued. This is a terrible process. I understand. I understand that uh, one of the things that I've experienced in the practice of law is that the lawyers, a lot that I've dealt with for many years, they become so irritated because they're working from home. And I was doing a deposition a week ago, and as a funny thing happened, I had a lawyer who's maybe 5'9", 150 pounds, started yelling and screaming. Now he's 20 plus miles away from me, and I could tell you, I would never tolerate that if we're in the same room. I'm not that type of lawyer. But in any event, I just said, "What are you now? You are a Zoom bully? I mean, what are you doing? You're yelling through the freaking phone." I was thinking to myself, I'll be happy when we would be in the same room, and like for you to try something stupid like that when we're in the same room. So what has happened is, I recognize the fact that we have become irritated because this unnatural phenomenon, the social separation. There were some studies many years ago about the human touch. And I remember way back when I was in college, and there was a study one time, they wanted to try to develop the smartest possible kids. So what they did when these kids were born, and I forgot the study, but they then they gave them a clinical environment. They were fed. They were given all of the medication, but they weren't given love and affection. They weren't kissed. They weren't hugged. And I was told that many of the babies didn't survive because a human being need a touch. They need feelings. They need love. It's a human phenomenon. And so with this separation, I've noticed that we've had so much an uptick in violence because people are separated. And then sometimes when people are together too much, they're separated, isolated, then they become more irritable. But the point I'm making is this has certainly resulted in adverse consequences and adverse feelings. Now, The other thing that I want to cover has to do with a few unresolved political issues that came to the forefront. That um, I want to clarify this because this has come up because I get emails and during the course of a week, and I can't talk about these issues during the course of the week because I have to make a living. See, I'm a trial lawyer, and we're in a process now where we're not doing trials. And the net result is the defense lawyers are generating a lot more work. It's miserable in the litigation field right now because you can't get a trial, and lawyers are making more money now because they're filing more documents. Every case, we see an uptick in filing. Whereas we used to have maybe typical 10 to 12 pleadings filed on issues, now you get 50. It's just the way the litigation climate is. Now, the reason that's important is that we now have a freeze in our state for 3 months of no trials, no jury trials, 3 months. And what has occurred is that it resulted in a significant backlog. But what was interesting, I started following the number of lawsuits that were filed by the Trump administration. And I read some of them. It was unbelievable, unbelievable some of the things that the lawyers filed in court. In a typical situation, most of the pleadings I saw, the allegations are made, the lawyer will be sanctioned, both by the trial court and the disciplinary commission, because it was just that bad. They're evidence free, false facts. They have no evidence to prove any of the allegation of fraud. It's got to be the dumbest lawsuit I've ever seen, and here's why. The Republicans won state houses, they won some governor's races, they won Senate races, House of Representatives on the same ballot as Trump. And these same Republicans, like in Arizona and places like that, that won, they're saying they signed this petition to throw out the votes in 4 states: Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and I think Arizona. And but the problem is they were on the same ballot. So they got elected, but Trump did not. And so the question that you have to ask these folks is something very simple. If you think that the election was fraudulent, then why don't you resign? It's just that simple. Of course, but what amazed me is that I saw a latest poll that said over 70% of Republicans think that the election was fraudulent. And that was astonishing to me. Just because the guy in the White House says that, and everybody say that he's had like 20 some thousand lives, and they believe it. It was just incredible to me. And more disturbing is that more and more people I run across, they also articulate that. So, and what's interesting, even in Indiana, our own Senator Braun and the other guy, they did not congratulate the president-elect. And it was disturbing to me. It showed an outward obedience to a person who's in office who is certifiably a nutcase to me. You know, I said that. I think it's a certified nutcase running our country now. And unfortunately, there are so many people following this. No matter what he says, they follow it, and it's bad for our country. Now, we'll go ahead and take a commercial break at this time, and Our number is 317-239-1310. We'll take a short commercial break.
You all right?
You put them on mute.
Yeah, I put both of us on mute. We both
Well,
on mute.
They're doing a commercial?
Yeah, I guess. You said that. I don't know.
you're still live on YouTube.
Yeah, you still live on YouTube.
They say lost signal.
That's probably your phone, but
No, radio station.
really? Mhm. We're here.
Oh, are you on the station?
Yeah. They should have a station. I got the number here. You want me to call them again?
Call them again.
Okay. How long they say they lost the signal?
Couple minutes.
I got busy signal. I'll do it again.
It's 236 or 239.